Welcome back to another episode of Owner Experiences on the Aquila 32 Sport. In this video I wanted to cover the SureShade. SureShade is an automated Bimini that shoots out the back of your top and covers most of your rear seating. It's a super cool feature and new for the 2021 model. My Aquila 32 is a 2021. What you need to know about that is that the 2021 is nearly identical in every way to the 2024. So if you have any of these model years, this video is going to be helpful. I bought my Aquila 32 used and I'm brand new to the Aquila and anything bigger than a pontoon. The prior owner filled me in on some trouble that he'd had and let me know that he just spent $1,700 the prior summer to get the SureShade working again. We tested it during the sea trial and it worked just fine. However, when we transported it 3,000 miles across country from California to Virginia, something must have gone wrong, or maybe it was just the Aquila. The prior owner said that SureShade worked with MarineMax to try to resolve a problem where water had gotten into his SureShade motors and caused them to fail. SureShade got him new controllers and motors, and MarineMax modified the cylinder channels and added drains under the base of the cylinders so water couldn't get to the motors. He didn't like the fix because the new drains were above the pilot and co-pilot seats, and when it rained, the inside of the boat and anyone sitting in those seats would be wet. SureShade, it actually leans toward the front of the boat. So water, if it were to come in, it would actually flow this direction. So what they did apparently was they tried to stop it up in here, and then they caught the water and they made it flow out here. But it was an idiotic design because this just trapped the water, and this water would run right down here and land on whoever's sitting here, or just fill up the boat with water, so we had to put a towel down. Same way over here, except for it dripped on the electronics panel. It would drip straight down onto the joystick and all over here, and then your floor would be soaked here, and so it was just not, it wasn't a good setup. Well, he was right. I parked the boat at my marina while I was waiting for some maintenance to be done to the motors. I had the interior of the boat all cleaned and dried, put all the covers on, and then we had several days of rain. I went out there after the first day and noticed that I had a lot of water all over the floors, and it was coming in from those two drains that MarineMax had added to the SureShade channels. My fix was to go to Home Depot and buy some clear tubing that I was able to slide into the drain holes, and then I guided the drain tubes down the isinglass and outside the window onto the boat. I dried the boat interior and went back out the next day to see if the tubing had kept the water out of the boat. It was pouring that day, and when I went in, the boat was dry. It worked perfectly. If you have an aft cover for your Aquila, and I highly recommend it, then this is the way to go if MarineMax has added those same drains to your boat. Now to figure out why the SureShade wasn't working. MarineMax is the distributor for Aquila in the US, so I called the Wilmington store to see where the controller box was so that I could check and see if it was getting power. They didn't know. So I called the Jacksonville store, and they told me that it was located behind the ceiling panel between the two speakers. It was super easy to get down by just using a flathead screwdriver. It helps to have two people there, not because it's heavy, but you don't want one side to fall down and jerk the speaker wires out, like I did. I wasn't getting any power to the radio either, and I told him about that. He asked me to remove the radio from the dash and check the power on both items and get back to it. Once the panel was down, I checked to see if it was getting any power to the controller box, and nothing. No power on the radio either after I took it out, even though I had power to the navionics. Here's where my inexperience with this boat kicked in, and I found the solution purely by accident. I was told during my survey that power to the items all over the boat was controlled by the CZone in the cabin and the Raymarine unit at the helm. I checked the power items on the Raymarine screen and everything appeared to be on, but I never even thought about checking the CZone because I thought they were the same, and I didn't know how it worked anyway. In any event, MarineMax probably assumed I knew something about the CZone, or they wouldn't have asked me to go through the disassembly of both of those items. After some fiddling around, I found out that there were several items that you can only control from the CZone, including the radio and the SureShade, which is called a sunroof on both the switch and the CZone. Okay, so now I have power to both the radio and the SureShade. So I press the lever down to extend the top. It went back about 10 inches and stopped, and then nothing. Now the top was stuck with the Bimini hanging out 10 inches. This wasn't good. I did some measuring and noticed that one side was extended about 2 inches further than the other side, so the top had been racked. MarineMax had no idea at this point, and there are no YouTube videos for the type of SureShade installed on the Aquila, so I called SureShade. The Aquila has their silent glide system, and this is important to know. You'll need to fill out a request form online, which works as good or better than leaving a message, and they're good about calling back. Before calling, I'd recommend scanning the barcode on your controller behind the ceiling panel. That barcode will guide you to a website where you can download the problem guide. There's a clear LED light on the controller. Once your unit quits working, it will start flashing, and the flashing diagnoses the problem. In my case, it was 1 yellow followed by 7 red flashes. From the sheet, it indicated a problem with the port side motor. After receiving a call back from SureShade tech support, they verified the code and guided me through making sure the unit was wired correctly. Before this, he asked what kind of boat I was on. When I told him it was the Aquila 32, I heard him sigh on the other end of the phone. He told me that they have problems with all of the Aquila 32s with water intrusion because the top slants toward the bow and water runs up the channels and puddles around their motors, which don't like water. When I told him that MarineMax had just installed the drains in the channels last summer, he was encouraged. But then he told me about an app that I needed to download. An app. So your SureShade has Bluetooth control from your phone, which includes the ability to operate the top from your phone, gives you diagnostics, and the ability to retract the top even in a racked condition. This is great for an owner. After resetting the home position a couple of times, the top fully retracted and he determined that the motor was bad. SureShade has a great warranty. It's 3 years from manufacturer, and I barely qualify. So the rep sent me a new motor that arrived a few days later at no cost. That was fantastic. The marina where we were having our motor work done wasn't too keen on installing a new motor. So my wife and I decided that we'd try to tackle it ourselves, and it wasn't that bad. The top is strong enough to support you. I'm about 215 pounds, and the top was just fine. The SureShade cylinders and mechanisms is underneath a huge horseshoe cover on top of the boat. There are about 24 screws that have to be removed, and you need to use a box blade or something sharp to cut the caulk and free the cover. After that, I used a screwdriver to lift the edge and a 1x6 piece of wood to help hold the cover up. Once the top was freed, you can just shift it to the side, just enough to expose the cylinders. You don't have to take it off the top of the boat. I noticed that there were 3 drains in each cylinder channel. 2 that were just in front of a homemade center plastic dam that someone had rigged up to keep the water forward of the motor, and 1 just underneath where the motor is installed at the base of each cylinder. This is the one I think that MarineMax had installed. There was moisture there, so the dam didn't work as expected. The first thing you want to do before disassembly is to mark exactly where the 2 cylinder brackets are on the cylinder. This is important because SureShade has measured this to make sure the top operates correctly to avoid racking the top. Now disconnect the power cord and use an Allen wrench bit to remove the 2 brackets holding the cylinder port down. Use a small Allen wrench, which is SAE, to remove the first 2 screws you find from the base of the cylinders. This releases the motor. You can now pull the cylinder from the base upward to expose the motor. The 1x6 piece of wood is handy here, as you can put it across the cylinder channel to prop the cylinder up to be worked on. Remove the rubber plug from the back of the cylinder and you should now see the motor. You'll have to wiggle it around a bit to break it loose and pull it out. It's not that hard. Make note of the position of the nose of the old motor in relation to the 2 screw holes and twist the nose of the new motor to match. The new cylinder is simply slid in afterwards. Make sure you can see the holes to put the screws back in to hold the motor in place and secure the plastic plug in the base. Before dropping the cylinder back in place, remove the massive amounts of caulk from that center dam so that you can apply a new caulk seal later. Now you can put the cylinder back in place and secure it. Make sure you use your marks to make sure that the cylinders are in the correct position before reinstalling the brackets. Reapply the caulk to the center dam. Now it's time to test. The test was disappointing. The unit slid out 2 inches this time and stopped. I checked the LED for the error code. This time I had 2 flashing yellows followed by 7 red. This indicated an error on the starboard motor. After another email to SureShade, I received a message that they were sending another motor, again at no charge. A few days later, the motor came in and we installed it. I noticed that the new motors were about a ½ inch shorter than the old motors. This time our test was successful and we were elated. We reinstalled the cover and recaulked. While the cylinders were extended, I went ahead and wiped them down, got all the dirt off and sprayed them down with WD-40 and ran them in and out a few times, and it worked like a charm. Being a bit of an engineer, I wanted to see if I could find out where the source of the water intrusion was. And I think I did. When the top is extended, you'll notice there's a dam on the aft end of the top that goes from right to left. It covers the entire rear except the 2 cylinder channels. From the top, I also noticed that there's a pretty good gap between the SureShade cover and the actual top. So water definitely pours in during a rain event. So where could the water go? Well, it drips down where the dam guides it to the right or the left and straight down those cylinder channels where you don't want it to go. At the aft end of the top, the cylinders are raised up about a ½ inch off the top surface. So my solution was to try to lay a thick bead of caulk between the dam and the outer edge of the cylinder channel under the cylinder. I couldn't get the caulk gun to go where I needed it to go without disassembling and raising the cylinders up yet again. This next part I have to give full credit to my wife. I was simply going to build up stacks of flex tape to build a dam, but her idea was better. It was to fold a piece of the flex tape and stand it up to secure it to either side of the channel under the cylinder. This was a beautiful solution, but a tricky one to get in place. The idea with this was that the rain would drip down into this area where the dam is and build up to about a ½ inch before it overflows and spills out the back of the top away from the cylinder channels. In theory, this should work. If it doesn't, the only other place I can think of to get in is through one of the drains. Remember that I said that there were 2 drains located about halfway down each cylinder in front of the homemade center dams made by MarineMax? Well, I know where one of the drains goes, but I'm not sure about the drains that are located toward the center of the top. And MarineMax didn't know either. So without knowing for certain where these drains go, there's nothing to say that they might also be a source of incoming water. I'll let you know if the plastic tubing is throwing water like it was before my addition of the rear dams, and I'll let you know. So here's what you need to do to ensure that you don't have any headaches with your SureShade Bimini on your Aquila 32 Sport. 1. Know that all Aquila 32s have water intrusion issues that will at some point cause your SureShade to fail. It's not if, it's when. Have MarineMax install the extra drain system to help alleviate water standing at the base of the cylinders where the motor is, and see if they can't find a better location to drain so it's not draining into the boat and onto you. 3. Install a dam at the rear of the top at the cylinder openings to prevent water from coming in. I believe this is the original source of the water problem. 4. Download the SureShade app and have it ready for your trips. It'll be a real peace of mind, helping you to fully retract your top if it somehow fails when it's extended. 5. Know that if your motors fail, you may not get much help from MarineMax in getting your top repaired. That said, it's not that bad to do it yourself. And finally, 6. Inspect your cylinders at least annually, keep them free of dirt, and lube them periodically. I hope this has been helpful and informative. We'll have more owner experience and how-to videos coming soon. Until then, see you!